Hi guys, welcome to the latest podcast of YarninBlak. Before I start today, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that I'm calling in from. I'm here on the land of the Wurundjeri people in beautiful Balwyn Kew, and I'd like to pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. And I'd like to acknowledge any other Aboriginal people that are listening today, including my wonderful guest on today's podcast, Karen. Hi Karen.
Hey.
Well, I might as well just start and go. Karen, tell us who you are, where you're from.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, AJ, for having me. And I'd like to acknowledge I'm on Wurundjeri Woiwurrung country as well and pay respects to elders past and present. And I'm a Yorta Yorta woman, so my family's from the Shepparton region of Victoria. I live here on Wurundjeri Woiwurrung country. I've been I'm married. I've got 3 kids. And I live in Doncaster East and have for 27 years. So I've always kind of lived over this side of town, and I've been running my own consultancy business it'll be 21 years in February.
Oh, 21 years.
Yeah, long time.
What made you decide you wanted to start your business?
I guess I was working for the state government in Aboriginal Affairs Victoria, and I was kind of sick of, just the politics of government. And when you're working in black affairs, it's very challenging, particularly in the sort of government world and that sector. And I found that it was really hard to get support at the top level sometimes for things that community wanted to do. So I just said after 5 years of that I'd look at doing consultancy. My mum had been doing it for a while. I recruited people in to do consultancy work, and I thought, I could maybe do this and then spend a bit more time doing community work as well. But I've never worked so hard in all my life. I actually thought, I'll just pick and choose what I want to do, that sort of stuff. But no, this is the complete opposite of that. But, I've loved it because it means I've been able to travel all over Australia and work in several communities on different projects. I do a variety of things, so I'm not sort of like stuck to doing, the same thing all the time. And I've met some amazing, incredible people, and, people that have mentored me and coached me along the way as well. So particularly people in the community who have been doing consultancy, way before me. So that's been really good.
Yeah. Do you think consultancy's changed in the 21 years since you first started?
Oh, totally. When I started, I think there were 10 of us doing it. And now there's, being on the Kinaway board, there's about 60 Aboriginal consultancies in Victoria. And some of them are very big, some are very small, some are, like me, just a sole trader. And I guess the type of work has changed as well. I find that doing projects like evaluations and reviews of things, that's where the bigger money, kind of is. So being able to do, that type of work over 21 years has been fantastic, really delving into what services and programs are actually doing and achieving in community has been really important. Been able to do some mainstream work as well, so it hasn't all been in, the Aboriginal sector, where people have asked me to facilitate, workshops and things in the multicultural community, and also with non-Aboriginal people as well. So, that's been interesting. I think one of my most interesting things in that space has been with the City of Melbourne. So they asked me to run governance training and also fundraising training just for the broader community. And I've had Aboriginal people in that too. I've had the men shared. I've had, people of so many different cultural backgrounds. And then when I do it again, I find some of the same people come back and they go, oh, we just like to, have a yarn with you, and we've got some more questions this time round. So, like to, do all that. And I'm really impressed that with some of the fundraising, people have raised some good money for little projects that they've wanted to do, or, to help support, the kids to go overseas for school stuff. One kid had the opportunity to go to NASA, and she needed to raise 10 grand for that to happen. And he was only 12, but he's really smart. And he was Korean, I think. And so I taught her how to, do all that and go on the, GoFundMe, and how to, I looked at all her promo material and just made little tweaks for her. And then, she sent me a photo saying, we're over here. And I was like, wow, cool. And she did that all in 12 months. You know, it was pretty amazing. So, yeah, there's just little things like that that I go, yeah, I had a hand in that. So that's really good.
Yeah. What's I'm going to ask you, I know we're going back in time a little bit here, but where did you go to school?
I went to Glen Iris Primary School.
Primary school.
Yeah.
How much culture,
After you.
how much cultural awareness or Indigenous issues were you taught at school?
Oh, hardly anything. When it came to, history, it was all about Captain Cook and, the explorers and that sort of stuff. So when I'd raise it, they'd just go, no, we're not doing that. And, at the time, I just thought they just didn't want to do it. But when I, got older, I realized people didn't know how to teach it. So, and we've taken this long for that to, try and change. And I find that all the cultural awareness training that I do, people just never had that in their school, but now they're watching their kids get it in kindergarten and primary school. And so the kids are teaching them as adults about it.
Yeah. So I know you've got a son.
Yes.
How much cultural awareness, how much in Aboriginal issues has he been taught at school?
He got a bit in high school, but he went to a different type of school, so it was important for them to have that introduced, and they supported him to participate in any cultural activities like NAIDOC and Rec Week and those things. They just let him have the time off, it was just easy. So I didn't have to struggle with having to justify that. And he got to participate in all our Mullum Mullum activities along the way. And, I'm a part of a very big family. So he's been culturalized, his whole time sort of thing. And he really lives and breathes it now that he's 26. So, yeah, which is great.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you how old he was, and that was my next question. But
Yeah,
26.
26, about how many days ago? 21st. So he turned 26. So I said, oh my God, I feel really old now.
And you mentioned Mullum Mullum, and you're currently the chairperson of Mullum Mullum, but you've been there since the beginning.
Yes.
What was the idea behind Mullum when it first started? Why did you decide
Well,
that?
we didn't have anything out in the east really. The closest thing was in Hillsville with Una at the time, but they weren't delivering out to the inner east sort of thing. So a couple of community members said to me, "Oh, you're going into your consultancy, so you might have a bit more time to help us, get an organisation up." And Mum was part of that. She was like, "Come on, Kezzy, help us write submissions and that sort of stuff." So I did that, and then I had meetings with government, and because I knew how to talk to them, and eventually we found a little property in Croydon, and we refurbished that, so we were able to get some money to do that, and then we basically outgrew it within a couple of months, and then Auntie Janet found the church property in Patterson Street, and because she was the parish priest there at the time, and they were moving to a new location, but they wanted to lease it out, and the Aboriginal community was their priority, so which is great, and so we leased that for a number of years. And then we wanted to buy the property. So we actually did this massive search across the east about appropriate properties for having a gathering place in the future. And the community just got really, connected to Patterson Street. So we made an offer. They didn't accept it at the time. They wanted a lot of money. This is the church, mind you, right? And so went to government. Went through all the, the hoops around feasibility studies and all these other things they wanted us to have prepared. So that was like a 3-year, process of doing that. And then the opportunity came for capital money, and we applied. I think the main reason we got the money to purchase the property was because of the relationship we had with 3 local MPs, and they lobbied the minister really hard in Parliament about it. And then minister rang me up and said, "Okay, we're going to give you some money." I went, "Yay!" And so that allowed us to purchase the property and to start the first stage build. And of course, through that process, government said to us, well, you must spend the money on the first stage this way, which is to basically update the existing property. But then we found out there was heritage listing over the whole thing, not just a part of the church. And so we weren't aware of that. Even the church didn't know that, right? So it was just like really weird. And so I lobbied the local government minister to say, at a function that we were having across the road, we were launching some artwork just in the middle of COVID. And I said to the board who were there, is it all right if I go there? Like, hey, yeah, you can go there, Karen. So I did. And basically kind of shamed him up a little bit and said, who puts heritage listing for the Aboriginal community? What's that about? You know, you need to lift it, the whole thing, please. And then I dragged them over the road after we, finished our function. And then they said, okay, yeah, we get it. And I said, all right. Then it took another 18 months for them to consider that, because the council said, because I had all the councillors and the mayor there too, right? So I just kind of went there on everything. And they basically said we needed an arborist report. So there were certain trees that we couldn't, cut down. There was this whole thing. And then finally they said, yep, we're lifting the whole thing for you, so you can knock the whole thing down. So we're like, yay, knock the whole thing down. And then across the road, they were doing the level crossing removal of the railway line. And so to make sure that the property was kind of accessed a bit, we allowed them to park their vehicles and put their portaloos there and all that sort of stuff, because we weren't operating from that site, knowing that it was very unsafe. So we've been operating in this property that was totally unsafe. Could have, wall could have blown over. We were told all these things. There was no concrete slab. It was just on dirt, all that sort of stuff, right? So I thought, oh my God. And so now we're at the point of putting our application in to demolish the property. But of course, the state government has said, but you still haven't done the first stage build on the existing property. And I said, but we're going to be able to remove it. So I've got this politics going at the moment with needing to, I said, we just do a variation, so, but yeah, so we're a bit stuck there. But we will do the first stage, which will be the kind of gathering place bit, toilets, and the money that we raise through all the fundraising we've done. There's about 600,000 there. We'll build the purpose-built kitchen, because we have Mullen Creations, which is the food van and all the catering and all of that. So there's a whole lot of young people that want to kind of learn those things, and then we can actually use our food pantry to teach people how to cook with healthy food and, do all that. We can do it in big groups when we have an industrial kitchen. So, yeah.
So at the moment, Mullins, they're still doing programs, yes, but they're doing them on the site, aren't they?
Yes. So because I'm on the board of Yarra Valley Water, I said, I've got a problem. I don't know where to put our staff, because they can't operate from there and so on. And we were growing as well. So, we had another 8 staff on top of our existing staff. And I said, we've got nowhere to put them. And so the managing director of Yarra Valley Water, Pat, said, Karen, we've got this space now because of, lockdown and everything. We've got more people sort of working in a hybrid model. So we've got this massive office space that Mullen can use and you can have it for free. And I went, awesome. So moved the staff in. Of course, they said, oh my God, we're not used to these wonderful conditions, because, we've been operating at the church, which is really run down, right? So, and there's a cafe, our own cafe. And I'm like, I know, amazing, right? So, so the program staff are there. And then we got some money through the Commonwealth to upgrade Croydon Way, the little house there. So that's been totally refurbished. It's amazing what it looks like now. And so our operational staff and the CEO and Mullen Creations are based there because we were able to put in a purpose-built kitchen there too. So yeah. So it'll so next year we're hoping to demolish. Well, in the new year, I should say, and then start that first stage, which will be good.
Yeah. So when do you think it would be all opened and finished and completed? What's your vision?
Well, it's all about the money, mate, right? So it's, getting money in to do that. You never get it all at once. That's the problem. So that's why our architects sort of staged it for us. So the ultimate is to have 2 stories. So all the offices would be upstairs and then all the program stuff will be happening downstairs. And so we've got the 3D model done. We've got everything, right? Everything's ready to go. It's just getting the money to actually do it. And of course, as the years go on, prices go up. So we have to keep readjusting everything all the time. And so hopefully in about 2 years, we'll have the first stage done. The council's told us we've got to build it within 5 years. So, yeah, there you go.
So at least there's a 5-year limit at the
Yes,
moment.
that's right. And that's fine. We understand that. We want it done by then too. You know, my mum's like, I don't think I'm going to be here when it's finished. I say, well, we're working towards it.
What does leadership mean to you?
Oh, look, I've kind of struggled with the term, you know, over the years, and you know, people referring to me as a leader in different, you know, sort of sectors, and then I've just accepted it. So I've done lots of leadership programs, of course, and I deliver one for Aboriginal women actually now, you know, over the last 5 years. Been doing that, and for me, I guess it's about being able to advocate strongly to make change about something, and being able to do that for your community is a really big thing. So, you know, I've been on Kinaway's board for 12 years, and of course I stepped off in December, so I'm no longer on the board after all that time, because I've got this plan in place that I work for the next 7 years, and I just work my ass off basically, and then I go part-time, and then I totally retire. And but I want to come off the boards as well. So Kinaway's my first one. Yarra Valley Water, I come off in October this 2025. Then I'll come off community first development in 2026, but I'll stay on Mullum because that's my baby, and I need to get that building done. So yeah.
Don't step off that one.
Not that one yet. Everyone goes, you're not leaving Mullum, are you? I said, no, don't panic. But my aim is to get some younger people, like in their late 20s, early 30s, to come on the board. And what I'm thinking of this year is to, you know, look at our young ones that are in that sort of age range, and have a bit of a leadership group where they come and observe, you know, being on the board, and then they have the opportunity to come on as well. So doing that sort of grace thing, because a lot of people kind of don't really understand sometimes what board means. It doesn't mean you can come in and just change everything for your own purpose, right? Or your own family. It's all the governance stuff that people don't necessarily understand. And some people just hate talking about that at board meetings, right? So, and I'm like, but that's our role. So hopefully we can do that. And then hopefully in the future, I can become an elder, and then I can just access Mullum's programs as an elder, right? Like my mum does. So that would be good.
Where's Auntie Karen? Oh, yeah, she's in the elders group. That's where she is.
Yeah, there she is, doing some painting, doing this. Yeah. So that's kind of the aim. That's my plan. You know, because I get tired too, right? So the older I get, you know, the harder it is, of course. And I get bored sometimes too. I know that sounds strange, but people go, how can you be bored? And I'm like, well, sometimes when I'm doing the same thing, I get bored with it. And I want to do different things, sort of things. So yeah, and I want to do a bit more travel as well. Not sure where I want to go next, but yeah, do a bit of that also.
And before you mentioned traveling around Australia doing lots of work. Did you realise before you actually ever went? Because I remember the first time I ever went interstate, like I went to a remote community, how remote really actually is.
I know. No, I had no idea. And when I was on ATSIC, we got to travel a little bit, but they were mainly in main towns, right? And my first sort of remote trip with them, when we did a kind of like a national, we used to have these national meetings of all the ATSIC councillors across the country once a year. And so I did that, for 9 years. And that's when I learned all about politics and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And that was kind of my first major kind of leadership role, really, was I was the youngest person elected, actually. I was only 24 at the time. And Alice Springs was my first thing. And I was like, oh my God, this is totally different, right? And then when I got to go to Darwin, I was like, okay, this is even, different again. Then I went to Broome and I was like, oh my God. So there was all that kind of happening. And then over a 10-year period, for some projects, I was sent out to the middle of nowhere, literally on my own. And I've got so many stories I could write a book about, being bitten by all sorts of shit, the ute breaking down, and having to sleep underneath the ute, with a blanket with two other women who were in the ute with me and going, don't worry, Karen, this happens all the time. And I'm like, fuck, I'm freezing to death out here, right? Don't worry, someone will come around in the morning. And I'm like, I don't know if I can wait that long. And you can just hear the dingoes, howling. And I'm like, yeah, I just could not sleep whatsoever. But they were on the other side of me. So I was in the middle and I was just like this the whole time. And so I've had, some interesting experiences. My worst one was when I went to Thursday Island and I had to do a project up there. And when I was coming back, the tide had gone out really fast, so the ferry couldn't get into the pier. So they told us we had to jump in the water and carry our suitcases like this, right? And I was like, what? No, there's bloody crocodiles. I'm not getting in there. And they go, it's all right. You have to worry about the what sharks are they? They're like little grey sharks or little brown sharks, I think they are. And the kids would be there grabbing their tails and just slapping them to keep the crocs away. And then we could walk through. But I had these two little old ladies, right? And getting them in the water, oh my God. And I was petrified, totally petrified. And anyway, the guys, helped us do all that. And then we just waded all the way to the thing. And I've never moved so fast in that water, let me tell you. And I'm telling these old ladies, come on, ladies, hurry up, like this. And they're like, no, we're scared. And one woman just stood there frozen. So when I got my stuff there, I had to go back and get her. And I said, come on. And then the bus came to take us to the plane, and we were all just drenched, right? And so when we got in, they're beside themselves, and they said to me, we can't get on the plane all wet. I went, right. And I said, well, the plane's going in half an hour. And they go, yeah. And I go, oh God. So we're all in the bathroom, going through our luggage and doing all that sort of stuff. And then we could get the luggage on. So it was just this panic, sort of thing. So I learnt my lesson from that. So whenever I went there 3 more times. I just took a backpack. It never happened to me again. That was my I have all these little learnings, right, along the way where I go, no, won't do that again, won't do that again. I left my laptop in the security conveyor belt in Vancouver last year. And Kerry who I was with, left her phone at reception, but she thought she left it in the conveyor belt. We went Fiji Airlines. Wasn't until we got to Fiji that we were going through the little security to go on to go wait for an hour before getting on another plane. And they go, oh, laptops and that. So I went to my backpack and it wasn't in there. And I was like, like this, and just freaked out. It was 5 a.m. I was so upset. And then Kerry, I'm texting her because she dropped her glasses behind the seat, so she had to wait for everyone to get off. And of course, she didn't get my message because she didn't have her phone. So anyway, we were just kind of walking around looking for each other, and then we kind of found each other, and she was crying, I was crying, 5 a.m. And then we filled in all the forms online. So I did that with my phone and she used my phone to do that. And then it took me 4 weeks to get my laptop back. And the thing is, I had to remember what it looked like. I'm so lucky that I kept all the paperwork for it, the serial codes and all that shit. And then finally they agreed, yes, it was mine, and they'd send it back. So I've never taken my laptop ever again. I just take an iPad, and if I lose that, that doesn't bother me. So, yeah.
That's a good learning.
Oh, massive learning. Massive. And the reason I didn't get it was because it was really weird. The security there, the glass goes for a long way. So normally when you go through, right, you right there, get your bag, right? But you couldn't do that. You had to go all the way down the end. So you're watching it all go and it all backing up. So Kerry and I are talking, and I managed to get my carry bag. And then they go, do you have another bag? And I go, yeah, the blue one over there. But I didn't say in the laptop next to it in the tray, did I? So he just handed me that, and then we got on the plane. I was like, shit. Yeah, so big learnings.
But lucky you got it back.
Yes, I know. It cost me a fortune, right? And then travel insurance, and I got all that. They tried to charge me stamp duty. I'm like, but I didn't buy it. It was already mine. So I fought that one. That was $150, and I got that back. But just the pain of it all, because I'd have to get up at 3 in the morning to get online to respond, so I could get an answer back, straight away. So that was, yeah, pretty tiresome, really. Yeah.
Good learning.
Good learning.
Good learning.
Yeah.
Emerging leaders, the Fellowship of Indigenous Leadership. How did you become a fellow in that? Where did that start?
Well, I applied for the main one, which was for 3 years, and I was successful in getting that, which is great. And my project was to do the trivia night and the gala dinner at for Mullum. And so that's where it all started. And it's been we just had our 8th gala dinner. So yeah, so I was able to do that. So it funded me to do 1 day a week, basically, getting that happening. So yeah, which is really, really good. And then being part of the alumni, there's been lots of opportunities, because we get, as you know, because you were part of it too, that you get offered grants or other opportunities that other people don't necessarily, get a look in at. So I think that's, been great to be able to do that. So I've been able to apply for, little grants for Mullum, so for women's stuff, all the Christmas hampers, that sort of stuff that Glenda has, contacts with, being able to do that and get other little grants for community as well. We're able to take the elders out, to a really nice place down on the peninsula, and that was, just really great. Because usually you don't get funding for some of those things. So it was good to be able to access that. And I try and participate in the fellowship stuff as much as I can. And I know it's, taking a different turn now with what they're going to be doing. So I've just contributed to that as well. So, yeah, but it has opened doors for other opportunities.
Now, a couple of terms that get thrown around a lot. One is cultural safety. And I know that you obviously teach what cultural safety means, but what does it mean to you personally? And what makes you feel culturally safe when you go to services?
I guess for me, it's the right for me to be Aboriginal wherever I go in the world, where I don't have to justify who I am and explain it, and answer all these questions because people don't believe that that you are. So that's been a bit of a journey for me. So not being questioned when I go into a service, especially like a hospital or a clinic, or those sorts of places. When you tick that box, sometimes I stand there and I think about it. Do I tick it or not, right? Do I really want to go through the grief? Are you going to treat me right? And sometimes I haven't been treated right. Like all the way back to when I had Kane in hospital, they treated me poorly. This one midwife was just, horrendous towards me. And my experience should have been good, right? But I just wanted to get out of there. And my mum was like trying to talk me into staying, and I was just like, nah, I'm going. Get the car, put Kate in the capsule, in the car we go. And I came home Christmas Day, and then the CEO of the hospital rang me to say, you shouldn't have checked yourself out. I said, well, I don't care. I said, I'm not going to be treated like that ever again. And I put my formal complaint in. That's why you're ringing me. So, and he was like, yes. So he actually came out the next day on Boxing Day to see me, to take my complaint face to face. And that midwife no longer worked there after that, because there were 10 Aboriginal women over that month who she treated really badly. So for me, be treated like a human being, right? It shouldn't matter what, race you are. Treat everyone the way that they should be treated, particularly in the service industry. And I guess, that's probably been my worst experience, where you're in a very vulnerable position, and there's nothing you can do because you're relying on them to, to help you out and do things. So and it took me a while, to feel safe about that. When I put Kane into 4-year-old kinder, I didn't tick the box. And I just said, nah, I want him to be treated the same as everyone else. He knew he was Aboriginal and all that sort of stuff. And they keep asking me, what's your cultural background? I keep saying Australian. Yeah, but what's your cultural background? I said, I don't have to tell you that. And they go, oh, okay. And then halfway through, my mum looked after him for a night. She put him in an Aboriginal flag T-shirt, took him to kinder. And they go, so he's Aboriginal? She's like, of course. What's my daughter been saying? So I was like, oh God, like this. And then not long after that, there was a mother there at the kinder who asked the staff to ensure that my son was nowhere near her daughter. And they said, we can't do that and all that sort of stuff. No, I don't want them anywhere near each other. So she was like really mean to me. She didn't know me from a bar of soap. She just knew I was Aboriginal because of that day. And then I went through a whole primary school thing. So her daughter was in the same class as Kane. She wanted her removed from, being in the same class. So they did. And then she chucked a tantrum because, she was like, what did I do wrong? So they had to put it back. And there's a whole story for about 15 years that I put up with this woman. And then she finally apologized to me because she was in a situation where her daughter and my son were in the same scout thing as well. And they went on the scout camp and her car broke down and she needed me to pick her daughter up. And that was from Halls Gap. So, and then she had to apologize to me. And I thought about it. I thought, no, I don't want to pick your daughter up, after everything you've done to me. But of course, I was going to leave this girl there by herself. So, yeah, and she apologized to me. And what I didn't know was that she lived about 5 doors away from me. Because I never,
Oh, wow.
yeah, my house is like that, and there's a huge bend that way, and I have no reason to go that way. I always go up this way or that way. And I was like, oh gosh, she lived that close to us, But I've never seen her again since. But I did find out from her husband that he worked in the Northern Territory for a little while as a teacher, and she had a bad experience. She got carjacked by some Aboriginal fellas. So, yeah, she just put me in that bracket basically. And I think that's the hard thing.
Which brings me on to I've only got a couple of questions left, is that what do you think are still some stereotypes about Aboriginal people that are still out there? And I know you do lots of training. Do you hear some of these stereotypes that people have?
Yeah, absolutely. There's the thing about that we get everything for free. I think that's the one that really annoys me. When the referendum was on last year, I had a neighbour that I'd never met before, sort of probably 10 doors up, who walked down. He was about 70 something, and he waited for me. He was sitting on my front thing, and he was waiting for me to come home. It was a week before the vote, and I said, "Oh, hello," and he's like, "Oh," and he hands me this leaflet. So Yana Stewart is in my area, so she mailed out a Vote Yes pamphlet. And he wanted to know more about it. And I said, well, why are you asking me? And he goes, because you're Aboriginal. And I said, well, how do you know that? He goes, I walk past every day for the last whatever years, and you've got all the Aboriginal artwork in there. And I said, but lots of people can have Aboriginal artwork. He goes, not as much as you do. I said, oh, I'm having a good look in my windows. Anyway. And then he goes, but I see your son in his treaty tops. And I go, okay. So I said, all right, I'll have a yarn. And he said to me, he goes, so did you get your house for free and your car for free? And I said, no, I paid for it. I've never been on the dole. I've never taken a handout. So I had to explain to him these things. And he goes, okay. And then we did the vote. And then he came over the next day, and my husband was like, oh, he's come to gloat, and because of the outcome. Anyway, so I went outside, and he goes, I just want to show you what I voted. And he had someone at the polling booth take a photo of him with his vote, and he voted yes.
Oh.
So that was a good thing. And ever since, he comes down to say hello, and like he bakes. He was a baker, so and he's retired, so he'd bake all this stuff for us, biscuits and cakes and pies. And Steve goes, don't take those because, you might be poisoning them. Okay, I don't think so, but anyway, and they've been okay. And then I've had to say to him, stop baking me stuff, please, because then it looks like I'm taking a handout, right? And he just goes, okay, sorry. So So I think there are still stereotypes there, particularly about us not wanting to work and that we're lazy. I've seen the stereotypes in the business world where I've gone for consultancies and the clients rung up to say, look, we really want you to do the project, but we want to know, can you do the same job that a non-Aboriginal person would do? I said, what are you talking about? Well, we just need to know, can you do what, if we put a gubbar in basically, could you do what they do? And I said, yeah, well, I wrote the thing, didn't I? And they go, oh, of course. And I said, and I've attached all my other experience. And they're like, okay. And then I go, no, I don't want to do it. And they go, why? And I said, because you've just put all that out there and I don't want to work on a 3-month project with you because you still don't get it.
Yeah.
And I've had to advocate for other businesses too because of that, even with the CFMEU and, just trying to get some of the businesses, on site for things, it's been really challenging and there's still this lack of awareness of who we are and knowing that we are, the next generation's coming through. So it's a very different to our generation and the one before, right? So, and the skill sets are very different now as well. And I think just the attitude of young people is different. So they own the racism a bit more. I've noticed, like even my son, he works in the construction industry and he just stands up to people, So, people call him an abo and a coon. He goes, yeah, so what? So what? And then they don't know what to say, right? Because they want an argument. And he just says, yeah, okay, I'm an abo. So what? And they're like, okay, they don't know what to say after that. So I'm like, that's good. So, just being a bit more strong about those things.
I've got 2 questions left, but the last one is if I do a magic wand, and I've got one here, dollars, which I don't actually have here, right? And said to you, you could change whatever you want in Indigenous affairs, what would you want to change or fix?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's huge. Look, I think if we can have a treaty, that would be awesome. I still want us to be recognised in the Australian Constitution that we exist, we're here, because when you are in the Constitution, you can bargain and negotiate. So we can do that in the Victorian one, right? That's why treaty is possible. But I guess I need all sides of government to be supporting us and our future direction and aspirations, and really, commit to investing in our community. So whether it's through business, whether it's through education, whatever it is, all the other opportunities that everyone gets to do that. I mean, I'd love it that everyone gets given a house in our community. That'd be awesome, right? Let's just kind of start there, and let's ensure that our kids can, get the further education they need after, secondary school, and that those opportunities are always there. And my biggest thing is that we don't have to pay tax. No taxes. No taxes at all. And I don't have to pay for water. I don't have to pay for electricity. I don't have to pay for gas. None of that, right? And that's paying the rent for me. And then, we can really succeed. But the thing is, when you do that, we know that people come out of the woodwork pretending to be blackfellas. And that's still a massive problem, right? It's just, still a big problem. I find it's more so a big problem in universities where people are just ticking the box to get a scholarship or, to access all these other things that are there. But the other thing is that if I had a magic wand, the word racism and discrimination would be like, what does that actually mean? Because everyone's not experiencing it anymore. So, yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist, right? I want my grandkids to say, Nan, what's racism? Yeah. So that would be, I think if we can stamp out that, stamp it out for everyone. And I know people a lot in our community say if you get it right for Aboriginal people, you get it right for everyone else. And I'm a big believer of that. Even with just our services, looking at how we nurture our people when they come in the door. Why can't the rest of the community do that? Why does it have to be that we're just a number and that we're not seen as people? And I think if that can happen, that would change a lot too.
Now, my last question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
5 years' time, well, I've got my 7-year agenda, so I'll be retired
Yeah.
and living a fun life, doing fun stuff. Yeah.
Traveling, traveling.
Traveling, yeah,
Yeah.
some more travel around the world. Kinaway actually gave me a travel voucher for my
Oh,
gift,
no.
which is cool. And with my travel company. So how do you know what my travel company is? They go, oh, we asked Kerry. And I said, okay. Because they wanted to give me a painting, I think. And I said, no more paintings. I got too many paintings. I want to have an experience. Yeah, so I've got to figure out what I'm going to do.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I want to say thank you for hanging with me for the last 30 minutes or so.
You're welcome.
I admire the work that you do. Been a bit of a fan for ages, but I love
Oh,
you.
thank you.
So I want to say thanks a lot. I want to thank guys and all the listeners. So thanks for joining us in today's episode, and I'll see you at the next episode. And thanks, Karen.
You're very welcome. And Happy New Year.